Chris worked for the Department of Water for 30 years and has been in the South Coast region for 22 years. I don't know if I'm going to remember this right, Chris. But he's spent a lot of time working in estuarine systems, and he's the incoming chair of South Coast NRM's Water and Marine Reference Group, so he's going to chair this next session.
Thanks, Penny. Now I worked for the Department of Water just over 20 years. I think Andrew's, I don't know if he's still here, but I think he's managed to beat me on the number of years working for the department. So he beats me on that, so I'm the first one out. I did get quite excited by both those presentations, but particularly the one because I thought there was going to be lots more rock lobster down here, and I was a bit disappointed to see that we just got the crabs instead. But there's certainly changes. Questions? Oh, Julia.
I just want to ask Nick, what's the concept behind why the Lewin Current's going to weaken?
Yeah, that's probably a question for the oceanographers. As I said, that's what the oceanography models do indicate that's likely to occur. The Lewin Current is influenced by the events in the Pacific. It is dependent on the Indonesian water from the Pacific going through Indonesia and coming down the west coast. I dare say it's associated with that, but it really is a question for the oceanographers. I'm just reporting the outcomes of that, so I haven't been physically involved with that modelling.
Okay, so
we look at the effects of those changes and how it might impact on our fisheries.
So if they've got it wrong, say, for example, and it's strengthened, what would we get then? Well,
effectively, a strong Lewin Current has got, like we see in a La Nina year that occurred in 2000 and 2010-11, you will see some positive impacts and sort of higher water that enhances the water temperature increases that is occurring in general. So that'll enhance that. And again, depending on the timing, for example, higher water temperatures, going back to the lobster fishery in February, March, is a positive impact on the settlement of the lobsters, and that's been well known for over 35 years. But the increase in water temperature in the winter, spring, during the spawning period, we've sort of indicates that it may be a negative impact, for example. So again, depending on the timing of these changes, for the scallop fishery, it's been well known that a strong Lewin Current will have a negative impact on the Abrolhos and the Shark Bay scallop fishery, for example. A strong Lewin Current will be good in terms of the tropicalisation of the lower west coast of Western Australia in terms of the species moving south. So they're the sort of changes you'd expect if the Lewin Current is stronger.
So we might get the rock lobsters, maybe.
Well, again, some work done in terms of the long-term distribution of lobsters is the general move south. But again, one of the things I've learned in the short period of time I've been looking at climate change on fisheries is that you've got to expect surprises. So what we've monitored with this recent downturn in lobster production on the west coast, if anything, there's been a movement north in the settlement of the lobsters, which, as I said, the models indicate the reverse. But we do have to be careful with short-term changes over 4 or 5 years compared to long-term changes over 40, 50 years. You can have decadal shifts in one direction, but a long-term change in the opposite direction.
Thanks, Nick.
Is there any questions? I'm going to ask one question while the microphone's put over there, but I know that if Keith's still here, I don't know whether he is, but he always talks about this big population movement from Perth down to Albany when he talks about climate change, and he always scares me by talking about these 500,000 people. Is there any studies done or figures done on how many people may wish to migrate further south? And question for Nicole Hobson.
No, I haven't looked at that specifically, but I saw Donna Sampi here from the Shire, and I know the Shire of Denmark sort of is working on projections of up to, I don't know, 20,000 people? What do we... No. No, so I haven't read anything specifically about projections of that. Have you got something specific, Keith?
No one's proved me wrong yet.
Oh, he is still here. He's just scaring us.
Yeah.
Right, the lady with the microphone.
Yeah, hi Nick. Just wondering, with the larvae and recruitment, other species that were on that list were like Australian herring, which is known to be a species we don't know much about. Have you got any perspectives on what might be happening with that species?
I supervise, fortunately, the invertebrate fisheries, and we've got enough problems of our own. I'll leave, and that's more for a finfish. But what I do know is that the Lewin Current has a major impact on the herring population. That's been well established. In fact, as I said, the little I know is that population also contributes to the settlement of herring in South Australia. And I have aware of a study in South Australia which shows that when there is a strong Lewin Current, there's good settlement of herring in South Australia. When there's a poor Lewin Current, there's poor settlement. So effectively, it's that almost one population that is influenced by the Lewin Current. And one of my sort of first slides was indicating that the Lewin Current not only affects the lower west coast of Western Australia, but does extend into past the Albany, Esperance, and into South Australia. So it certainly would affect the migration of herring, and may have had an impact on the downturn that's occurring now. But as I said, I supervise the invertebrate branch. I've got no problems of my own.
Kayleen.
Oh, thank you. Nicole, in some of your consultation, you consulted with Aboriginal people in Albany and in our region. Was there any particular Aboriginal issues in terms of climate change that kind of came to light?
I didn't actually work on that particular project, Kayleen, but from reading it and talking to my colleagues who did, I think there's obviously some concerns about impacts on the physical, like the fish traps, which I think are only really gaining recognition of how important they are as sites of Aboriginal heritage. So there's that potential for that physical impact on those sites. But I think it's also that just that impact on a changing landscape, and just that ability to find the bush tucker when it was always found. Or it's those less tangible things that I think are possibly just as crucial. And Carol alluded to that this morning.
I think Carol also mentioned how resilient the culture has been over 60,000 years, and through glacial timeframes as well, which was a timely thing to say. Is there any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to be finishing on time, which is unheard of in any conference. No? Well, that was easy. Thank you, panel. If you can show your appreciation.